At 6:48 p.m., just as the final staff member left the building and the automatic locks clicked into place, a faint echo lingered beneath the marble floors of the Savannah Museum of American Heritage. Down in the restricted archives, where dust and time shared dominion, Eleanor Moore, a soft-spoken museum archivist with horn-rimmed glasses and an impeccable memory, stared at a stack of what she wasn't supposed to see. 38 bars of gold, tarnished but unmistakable, were hidden in a compartment behind an unused display case. It wasn't on the inventory. It wasn't in any public record. And no one else, not even the curator, seemed to know it existed. But Eleanor did, and it was about to change everything. To understand how a quiet woman became the architect of one of the boldest cultural thefts in Georgia history, we have to go back to a woman who loved stories' secrets and her younger brother more than anything. Born in 1981, Eleanor grew up just a few blocks from the historic district of Savannah. Her mother was a librarian. Her father, a postal worker. Books were her babysitters. History was her first love. By 12, she could recite Civil War troop positions from memory. At 17, she earned a scholarship to Emory. At 22, she graduated top of her class with a degree in archival science and American folklore. But the world didn't have much room for brilliant, introverted women with a passion for dead paper. She returned to Savannah and took a modest job in the city's museum system. It paid little, but she had access to what she valued most, forgotten history. For years, Eleanor worked alone in the basement, cataloging, preserving, filing, and digging. That's when she began to notice strange omissions in the museum's older floor plans. Sealed rooms, blocked doors, boxes that were moved but never documented. She began to map them out unofficially. That's when she discovered the box. It was August of 2022. A hurricane had swept through the city a week prior. A leak in the Western Archive led Eleanor to move a display case. That's when she saw it, a crack in the drywall. Behind it, a sealed compartment. Inside, Civil War-era gold, nearly $3 million in value. Accompanying the gold was a brittle letter and signed, a warning more than a note. This gold does not belong to the living. It was paid for in blood. Those who claim it will answer for it. Most would call it superstition. Eleanor, she called it leverage. Her brother, Adam Moore, had just lost his business. Bankruptcy was looming. Medical bills were mounting for their aging mother. Eleanor didn't see herself as a thief. She saw herself as a preserver of legacy. If the museum didn't even know it existed, what harm could it do? She brought Adam in on the plan. Reluctantly, the Savannah Museum was preparing for a major renovation in October. During the week-long closure, security would be down. The perfect moment. But Eleanor couldn't move the gold herself. She'd need help. So she turned to an old colleague, Vanessa Ruiz, a former museum registrar who now worked freelance cataloging estates. Sharp, resourceful, loyal to Eleanor, but not to the institution. They met in secret over tea at the Moon River Cafe. Eleanor laid it out, the gold, the plan, the risk. Vanessa didn't hesitate. "You don't steal from thieves," she said. "You liberate what was already buried." October 14th, 2022. The museum was closed to the public. The power was on backup generators. Surveillance had been reduced for the renovation. Eleanor's badge still worked. At exactly 8:15 p.m., Eleanor swiped her card and entered the basement. Vanessa was already there in the loading dock with Adam, dressed in black. A rented van idled nearby. They moved fast. Eleanor had pre-packed the gold into crates labeled archival microfilm weeks in advance. No one had noticed. The moment the last crate was secured in the van, Eleanor hesitated. That letter, the warning, was still in her pocket. She placed it back into the empty vault. She didn't believe in curses. Not yet. By the following morning, Eleanor's face was calm as ever. She resumed her duties, cataloging renovation damage. No questions were asked. The crates were delivered to Adam's property, an unused barn outside Tybee Island. No one knew, but that night, the first call came. It was Adam. His voice trembled. "Ellie, there's something wrong with the gold." "What do you mean?" she asked. It hums." She laughed. "It's just in your head." But he wasn't laughing. "Things are breaking in the house. Lights, water heater. My dog won't go near the barn." "Take a breath, Adam. You're just paranoid." He paused. "No, Ellie. I think this gold was never meant to be touched." For 3 days, Eleanor ignored the strange calls from her brother. She told herself it was just anxiety, guilt, maybe, but deep down, something was gnawing at her. When she finally answered on the 4th day, she heard a voice she barely recognized. It was Adam, but not the brother she knew. "I buried it," he muttered. "You what?" "In the swamp, near the old textile ruins. I couldn't take it anymore." His voice trembled. "I haven't slept in days. I hear boots outside at night. I saw something, in the barn. I don't care about the money, Ellie. That gold's alive." She hung up, not because she believed him, but because a second call was coming in, this one from Vanessa, and she was screaming. Vanessa had taken a single bar as her share, enough to pay off her student loans, and disappear to Costa Rica. But just 2 days after the heist, her apartment caught fire. The fire marshal called it faulty wiring. Vanessa called it something else. "I didn't even plug anything in," she told Eleanor, coughing between tears. "And someone carved a name into my kitchen counter." "What name?" Eleanor asked. "McAllister." The name meant nothing to Vanessa, but Eleanor knew exactly who that was. While digging through Civil War records during her years in the archives, Eleanor had come across a long-buried logbook belonging to Captain Elias McAllister, a Confederate officer who had famously disappeared during the final months of the war, along with a shipment of Southern gold meant to fund the Army's retreat. His last recorded words: "Let it rot with the ghosts. If the South cannot have it, no one will." Eleanor thought it was wartime bravado. Now she wasn't so sure. By October 22nd, everything was falling apart. Adam had vanished, his phone dead, his barn abandoned. Vanessa was hospitalized after a nervous breakdown, muttering about shadows with bayonets. And Eleanor? She had started seeing figures in the corners of rooms. Always uniforms. Always watching. But she was a rational woman, until she opened her laptop and saw every archive file on McAllister's missing gold, documents only she had access to, had been wiped from the museum server. The message left behind was just 3 words: "Put it back." Eleanor knew she couldn't bury the truth. She retrieved the bar Vanessa had stashed, now charred at the edges, like a veneer flame, and followed the map Adam had sketched before disappearing. Swamp mud, gators, mosquitoes, and somewhere beneath it, millions in cursed gold. At 3:47 a.m., she reached the clearing. The old textile ruins still stood in silence. Fog curled around the dead trees. She dug until dawn. The moment her shovel struck metal, the air went still. Not silent, still, like time held its breath. She pulled up the first crate, nearly dropped it when she saw a uniform sleeve caught on the corner. Rotting, Confederate gray. That's when the whisper came, not from behind her, but from inside her own mind. You took what belonged to the dead. But Eleanor didn't rebury the gold. She burned it, crate by crate. She tossed it into an abandoned lime kiln near the ruins, watching it melt, hiss, and vanish into molten slag. It took hours, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. By the time the sun rose, the last bar was gone, and the whispers stopped. Adam's body was found 5 days later, miles from the swamp, in an old train car near the coast. Cause of death, exposure and dehydration. His knuckles were bruised, like he'd fought something. There were no footprints near the body. Just as Vanessa never returned from Costa Rica. Her email stopped 3 weeks after arrival. Authorities listed her as missing. Eleanor stayed in Savannah. She returned to the museum as if nothing had happened. But the woman who once loved secrets now avoided them. She never entered the archive basement again. The Savannah Museum of American Heritage quietly closed its archival wing in early 2023, citing foundation instability. In reality, the staff had grown afraid of it. A new wing was announced later that year, funded by a mysterious donation. One anonymous line in the records read, "For the preservation of what should remain buried." As for Eleanor Moore, she lives in a modest home near Bonaventure Cemetery. Still quiet, still alone, but every year on October 14th, she walks to the river and throws in a silver coin. And if you ever visit and watch closely, you'll notice she never looks behind her. If you uncovered millions in Civil War gold, would you take it? Would you believe the whispers from the past? Or would you bury it deeper and pray history doesn't reach back? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unsolved stories, chilling crimes, and mysteries buried beneath the surface.